Well, we are sitting where our dining room table used to be, and as you can see, that is no longer what it is. And yes, there is a mess behind us because, congratulations to us, we are still moving in and still going through renovations.
7 months later of living in an RV.
But who's counting?
On our front lawn, over 6 figures in repair and renovation. We're going to get into that. Okay. Yeah. Kate has been all over this thing, but we wanted to share with you guys, 7 months ago, October 9th of 2024, Hurricane Milton swept through the Tampa Bay area. And our home was one of the casualties. And, through all of that, we're somehow still living it.
Still living it. Even with living in an RV in our front yard and having to go from an inside to an outside to an inside to use a bathroom for 7 months, we'd still do it again, even if we knew our house would flood.
Yeah, and the premise of today's video is to bring you up to speed. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Juan Alcala.
I'm Kate Alcala.
And we make videos that are all things Tampa Bay, what it's like to live here, what it's like to play here, and what it's like to deal with the challenges of living here as well. And the one thing we've done on this channel, I feel very well, is always be transparent with you guys. And we've made videos in the past, which you guys can go look up, showing the original flooding damage that we had to the house. We didn't get storm surge from Hurricane Milton. We got wet because of the rain. And we're going to get into the weeds on that a little bit today, but I want to bring everybody up to speed with where we are in our current repair renovation.
Yeah.
Also, address the elephant in the room, which is this is part of living coastal life, right? And we're going to get into that today because the question always is, would you guys do it again? And
yeah.
We're here right now, right? You guys are seeing it behind us. So we're going to get into that today. And if you're new here, we're glad to bring you guys up to speed on what's going on. So the first thing I want to do is take the time to thank Kate for joining us on camera because she's not a huge fan of having this camera in her face.
You keep saying that, but you keep putting the camera in my face.
That's true. But it's usually only twice a year. So you guys got her now. And hopefully if you've watched any of our previous videos, you know how we share. And I know that some people will hear what we're going to share today.
Yeah.
And maybe some of these numbers are going to be shocking to you, but the thing that we pride ourselves on is sharing the whole truth, nothing but the truth, right?
Yeah. Our story.
Yes. And because, there's a cost of living in paradise. And today we're going to discuss that. And going back to October 9th, we knew Hurricane Milton was coming in.
Yeah.
Hurricane Helene had just been here 13 days prior.
Yeah.
13 days prior, 11 days prior to that, I was down at the beach helping people who had been flooded out of their homes, 4 feet of water. We're just a little over 2 miles from the beach. So we shouldn't get storm surge. We didn't, by the way, and we'll walk you through how we got wet. But I was down there helping people who's completely lost everything, right? They lost all of their belongings. The houses were flooded, completely damaged. And in no way, shape, or form could I ever saw us 13 days later being in the same exact position.
No, so we evacuated because we have a ginormous tree in our front yard. And full disclosure, we thought that we were basically more concerned of the tree falling on our house. And if you're in the middle of a storm and a tree falls on your house, there's nothing you can do. There's no one you're going to call. So we decided to evacuate. We did not think that we were going to come home to a soaking wet house.
Yes. And as we pulled up, we saw in the neighborhood that water had made it up to, halfway on people's lawns because you could see like all the debris and stuff that it had pushed up there. Same thing for us. We didn't see anything out of the ordinary right up front. But as we got out of the car and started to walk up to the house, I could see water standing on the side of the house. And that started to make me a little bit anxious. And as we opened the garage door, you could see that, there was probably a couple inches of water that had got in there at some point. Now, our garage is lower than our living level.
Yeah.
So there's some, we're like, okay.
There's a little bit of hope. So I opened the door from our garage into our laundry room and we have a rug in there. And the moment I stepped in, it just went squish.
Yeah.
And you could
the words
feel
no fudge came out of your mouth, I think.
It was a no fudge. That's, here we are.
Full transparency.
Yeah. It was a squish and water seeped out from underneath my feet. And then there was an additional door to go into the living space. And when I went to open it, because everything was swollen and so much humidity and moisture was in the house, I ripped the door open and the trim immediately came off. And it was just from that moment of just, it was you just walk through of like, is this real life right now?
Yeah, it was definitely a difficult moment. And you go back and watch the previous video. I know we're putting some clips in here for you guys to view right now, but as we walk through, each rug was squishy. And, ultimately, I think we would have ended up being okay at some level. Our walls are plaster, not drywall. Our home is block, so it's not stick built. There's a lot of things that are good with that. But the thing that was a challenge was our bedrooms had engineered hardwoods back from like the 90s, where it was like the 4-inch strip. And what I mean by engineered is it's really only hardwood on top, and then it is all layered underneath. And what happens is concrete is porous.
Yeah.
So it ended up pulling in water from outside through the block, and it started getting in underneath the flooring. And within a couple days, even though we were running industrial humidifiers and everything under the sun, we weren't able to get all the humidity and moisture out of the home, and then it started to take over the wood. So we ended up having to get the high Stella. So we ended up having to tear up the floors, and that was in high demand. Not only had we just had a hurricane 13 days prior, but here we are, 13 days later, and now we need our floors torn out. Now, we waited about a week, right? We tried everything to save it.
Because we tried. We talked to all kinds of different people who were in and out of houses who helped in situations like this. And they're like, based upon my experience, you guys might be okay. Like, this area that you see right now was already ceramic tile. So that wasn't of a concern. Now grout is porous, so there still is that level. And we also didn't see how it was installed. So me being me and a mom of like complete fear of mold and mildew and having allergies to it on top, I was like, take it all out. Yep. But we wanted to dry it out. So we ran fans, we ran humidifiers, we got all the water out as much as we could. We ripped baseboards off the walls and drilled holes all down just to help with airflow. Yep. And a lot of people told us, like, however, the best way to do the airflow is to make sure you're making it in a circular motion. So plant the fans accordingly so you're constantly creating throughout your house. So we thought we were okay. And then he went to rip out just in the hallway just to see what was going on, some pieces of the engineered hardwood. And I was standing in the hallway with him, and within 30 seconds, I was in a fit. My throat was itchy and scratchy. I could feel it in my ears. I was like, nope, you need to stop doing that. There's clearly something going on there. So at that point, that was when we started making the calls for someone to come and demo the floors. And if they're bringing in the machines to demo, over half the house that are hardwood, we just took it as, well, we might as well do the flooring that we want throughout the whole house.
Yep. So to give you guys a little bit of backstory, we're 43 feet above sea level where we live. So we're in what's known as flood zone X. Technically in the United States, every home is in a flood zone. Mm-hmm. Okay. But the way that FEMA uses the maps and the way that mortgage companies require you to have insurance, it's once you get outside of X, you're required to carry some sort of insurance here in Florida where we are. But we're in X 43 feet above sea level. If storm surge ever reaches our front door, the world has changed literally, right?
And we're in a non-evac zone.
Yes, so non-evacuation zone, meaning that we aren't mandatory evac. When they start calling letters, they never get to us because we're so high. Doesn't mean it's not wise, like you said, we left. But why I'm sharing all this and getting the details is because we don't have flood insurance. We're not required to carry it, and ultimately the burden of your home getting wet once you don't have flood insurance, if the home floods from rainwater or sewage or anything else, you're not covered. And I'm sharing this with you guys because for the policy of roughly $430 a year, we could have had our home covered in some capacity. So we ended up eating the entire cost of this renovation. Yeah.
But just a caveat, make sure that if you do choose to put a flood insurance policy, you don't have to, dive into that, because there are different levels of every single flood policy. Is it flood from sewage backup? Is it flood from rain coming in? Is it flood from rising waters? We were flood from rising waters that intruded into our house. So that it is a different policy than sewage flood.
Correct.
So definitely talk to an insurance agent on that and dig into, like, these are all the possible scenarios. What do I need?
Yeah, because the irony is, if that tree would have fallen on our house and then the water would have rushed in through that hole, it would have been covered by insurance. Now, there are still lots of people waiting for checks. Our entire coast, people have just decided to go ahead and do the renovations, fix the home, whatever it was, just to get themselves back in their house, because there are way too many people still living in RVs, y'all, just so you know. There are still pods in people's driveways, a lot of things out there. And we're being transparent with this because, almost 7 years ago, it'll be 7 years in December, we sold everything we own, packed up our family of 5, and moved 1,200 miles south here to the greater Tampa Bay area because we're beach babies. And honestly, we've been loving it ever since.
100%. Still do.
And I think, we're not trying to hide that as a hook for you guys. Transparently, and I know you've used that word a few times, but like honestly and openly, this is the worst case scenario outside of a loss of life. And what do I mean by that is like having to do this entire thing on our own financially has been a huge undertaking, number one. Number two, we have kids. Yeah. And like Kate said, we're living in an RV. We don't have a bathroom there. Yes, there is a bathroom in there, but we can't use it because there's nowhere to put the sewage. So we don't use that. We do have running clean water, and we just let the gray water go out because wash sink dishes or whatever. But we were coming in to go to the bathroom, and y'all, that can be very challenging. Every time somebody moves,
have a 6-year-old or any year-old who at 3:00 in the morning has to go to the bathroom, and now you're running around, everywhere to go do that. It's mentally and emotionally taxing. So to say that it wasn't or isn't hard, like remove the financial piece of it. Like it's been heavy, y'all, and we're not sitting here like playing lightheartedness with this. Like we've taken some blows and it's hurt and it's been taxing. We've struggled. Like sometimes I was super prickly and not very kind or gracious. And I probably still will be at times, and same thing with my kids. But as you guys also know, like we homeschool our kids and we work from home. So there's been a lot of dynamics, and this isn't a sob story for like, woe's us. Yeah. We know people who have had it even worse, but for us personally, this was like the worst case for like, we have been homeschooling, working from home, and we went from a 2,000 square foot home to a 200 square foot box on wheels.
That moves when the wind blows.
Yeah. But there's also different parts, right? Like the camper alone was a blessing that we were provided. So anyways, I don't want to go into
great family loaned that to us. And the reason we're sharing this today ultimately is because we want to expose everybody to not only the paradise portion of living here, which it is. I mean, it's
pain too.
It's beautiful, but this is the reality. This is the worst case scenario, like I said, outside of loss of life, which, that is ultimately what we feel extremely blessed about. Yeah. Now, I want to get into the numbers and the ramifications. Okay. So we did make a claim because I don't want to be someone who is committing fraud, right? Like not telling our insurance company that our house got wet technically would be committing fraud. Yeah. Right. Now, I knew they weren't going to do anything because this is Florida. I live near the coast, and no insurance company is going to pay if they don't have to. And of course, they don't have to because we don't have flood. So we were in a position where we had to make a decision about how we were going to approach repairing the home. Again, we had some concerns about some things. Some paint was peeling up around the wall. Our floors were concrete. We're on a concrete slab because we're in Florida. We have an all block home. Very little wood in the interior walls to begin with. So we knew we could recover from that. But we knew we were going to have a mold and mildew test and all those other things. And it became obvious we were going to have to tear out the kitchen. It got wet. We could have made it work, but it wasn't going to be great, and it was dangerous. So,
yeah, and like to touch on that, so our cabinets were also sitting on MDF that got wet. Yeah. So we could have wrote it out, but what is the stability of that later on down the road?
And mildew is
or if they get wet again and now they just crumble and now they are a physical safety hazard. So it was just, there was a lot of things that we had to come to Jesus meeting with of, what are we going to do? What are we not going to do? What can we wait on? What can't we wait on?
And so ultimately we made the decision knowing that we could get back, and we got quotes from contractors that it cost us about $7,000 to get all the flooring tore out, which is crazy, but those guys could charge whatever they wanted at that time. Yeah. And getting tile off the floor, hardwood that is glued down to concrete when it was throwing her into its, I just had to hire a pro. So we did. I don't love the fact that I had to pay that much money, but that was the reality of it. We got it out, we dried out the house, and then we had a mold and mildew test, which came back clean. Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
And that's the other. So we waited a solid month before we did that air quality test, because mold doesn't just grow overnight, right? Like, we wanted to make sure the house was dry, do all of that. We talked to a home inspector who also does mold and mildew, and air quality tests of what do we need to do to make sure that the house is ready to be tested based upon everything that just happened. And they walked us through dehumidifiers, fans, everything needs to be off for a minimum of 48 hours before we're even going to come, because we don't want anything to skew the numbers. And I was like, okay, let's just go 72 for the peace of mind. So we did all of that, and he did the laser test, or not laser, I don't even know, infrared.
Whatever.
All the tests.
The gambit.
Air quality testing went through, and we were an inch up already, so he could even see inside of the walls at some capacity.
So we went through that, and then at that point we had to make the decision, right? What are we going to do? Are we going to leave the original tile floors in, which were already dated, those types of things? Do we even have the finances to make this happen? And at the time, y'all, I'm just going to be honest with you, we really didn't. I mean, we could make some things work. We were going to be able to get back in the house. That wasn't ever in question. But going like a full renovation, which we wanted to do anyways, but we didn't want to be told by a hurricane when that was going to happen, nor were we prepared to do that. But that's where we are today. And Kate knows the numbers in detail. I think that we'll just leave that. We might come back and share an entire video breakdown of what this is, but ultimately we're over 6 figures at this point. Now, what did we get for all of that, right? So we've got all of our cabinetry in the entire house at this point, bathrooms included, is all real wood. No MDF in the house. All the trim is real wood.
Doors are solid core.
And I'm sharing this with you guys because wood can get wet and recover. Right? Wood.
MDF.
Wood.
Veneers, things of that.
Those things don't. So now we put ourselves in a position that if this were to ever happen again,
at the same level that it did, not worse.
Correct.
I can't promise that. At the same level that we did get wet, we should be okay. Outside of furniture and mild pieces, don't mind her. Jonathan's here to take care of the pool.
So, we made some decisions about what we were going to do, right? So we decided to redo the kitchen entirely. We removed a half faux wall here to open up the space, lifted the ceiling up on that short side, did a lot of work, and we're going to show you guys what we did at a different time when the house is finished. We're really close. They're working on putting in the doors, which you can probably see all the way in the back corner over there, and putting the trim on, and she's going to get the house that we probably dreamed of, and we're excited for that, but definitely didn't want to have to go that way. We're working on the water mitigation on the outside. The reason that we got wet is we got over 100 inches of rain prior to the storm.
In just the summer months.
So
like from mid-June to September.
Yep. And then what ended up happening is Milton came, and then there was like 12 inches of rain in 6 hours or whatever, and it just overwhelmed the entire yard. And, so the house didn't, completely get washed over. We're sitting on the same couch that was in here. It was completely clean when it was going on. So, some things had some issues, some didn't. But why we're sharing this, the lessons that we learned from this that are super important are, it's not just about the elevation of the home, right? It's the one specific house. It's about your neighbors and why this happened to us. And y'all, we're real estate agents, and we've helped over 100 families relocate to this area in the last 2.5 years alone. And I'm proud to say that none of them got wet like we did. A lot of them chose new construction over that time period, and that has a lot to do with it. But the reality is our home sits a foot and a half shorter than each neighbor on the sides, and you don't know until you're overwhelmed with water that's a problem. Our neighbors behind us were a different phase of this subdivision, and they are clearly 2 or 3 feet higher. So we were kind of like the low point where all the water ran through. Now, I'm sharing this with you guys because one of the lessons we learned was not only to look at our elevation, now the elevation of the property, look at the elevation of the neighbors. You can find this on a lot of the county records. Our team helps a lot with clients on this at this point. Make sure you get a flood policy. Even if you're not required to do it, that peace of mind for $450 or whatever your number is going to be depending on where you live. Risk factor is going to be a lot lower depending on certain areas. If you're not required to carry flood insurance and you have that policy, it is a very inexpensive peace of mind. Because listen, y'all, if I paid that policy for the next 50 years, that wouldn't even have covered the first purchase and tear out of the floor, right? So like it was something I wish we would have done. We're putting that in place now, so we're all set on that. We're working through the mitigation. We'll walk you guys through that in the future and what that looks like. But, the question is, would you do it all over again? And, people ask us that all the time, and we're not going anywhere. We're renovating the house, right? We could,
if we were going somewhere, we would have already gone, number one, or we would have repaired the house we would have hit the easy button of repair.
Yeah. Home Depot kitchen, right?
Yeah, which is totally fine. But
vinyl
that's
floors.
Not what I wanted.
Yep. And she, she's going to have a beautiful home now that is literally built.
He lives here too.
Right? Yeah, but it's built to withstand the challenges of Florida. We got tile floor all the way through the house. Like, everything is the way that it should be to best prepare for this. So again, wanted to jump on today, give you guys an update, welcome new people. And I'm sorry, I know it feels like we're probably random. This is not scripted. We're just sharing. And one of the things that I love about what we've been able to do with this channel is we help people, make decisions about moving to the Tampa Bay area. And if this scares you, I understand, because it should be a heck yes or no, right? And for us, it was a heck yes to get here. We knew the risk. We, here we are, and potentially the worst case scenario, like I said, outside of the biggest challenge. We're very grateful for that. But we're here. If this ever happened again, will we be frustrated? Yeah, but we do love it. And
it's just like, we learned a lot by going through this. Of, say it happens all over again and we didn't put in tile floor and we didn't put in solid wood, we would know better how to mitigate the problem faster and probably a little bit more budget friendly.
Yep.
Because we also learned a lot of hard mistakes by, like, vet your contractors, y'all.
Yeah.
Please vet your contractors.
We had to fire the first one. We're not even going to get into that.
No, but they're working for you in your home or your second home or your investment property. Like, vet them, dive in, ask questions, check ChatGPT. What questions should I ask on how to handle X, Y, and Z? Because the better you're informed to go through a renovation, whether it's just to renovate a house or whether it's to repair because of storm damage or a natural disaster, the more that you can educate yourself on how to take care of the home and set it up, and then best ask that contractor question, the better that you guys can work together as a unit, because they're working with you to create this. Because it came with a lot of hard lessons of, like, we already had conversations. I'm like, man, if we knew 3 months ago what this would be, we would have done this before. But now we're at this crossroads again of, well, we can't do that now because we've already inlaid tile floor throughout the house or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and we're 10 days out from hurricane season, and that's really why we wanted to bring this video to you, right? Like, we're not even back in the house officially, right? Our bedroom doesn't have a door on it. Our bed's not in there. But we have to get the house ready. We have to get everything secured, water mitigated, which we're, working on all those things and feel great about it. But the reality is, if you want to live coastal, I mean, like right by the water, right? These things can happen. Even if you want to live inland, if you're downstream of rivers or creeks or things like that, there were areas that were affected that were nowhere near
rising north of us for weeks after the hurricane.
So make sure that you're looking at those things. If you have more questions about moving to the area, please feel free to reach out to me and the team. All of my contact information is in the description below. There's a link to my calendar. We can, bust open Google Maps, show you what's going on in the area, keep you guys in the best possible position to not ever have this happen to you. Like I said, we've moved over 100 families here. None of them had this happen to them. So
I'd rather it happen to us than them, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. But we can get you through, some of those challenges and help you understand the risk involved in order to get to paradise.
Yeah. And if you do get wet, we have full system to help dry your house out.
Well, we're going to make sure that doesn't happen for you guys. All right. We are grateful for your time and your attention. We will continue to update you guys on the house. When the house is completely done, she's going to give you a tour of some sort. So, she's still has... we want to make sure that we protect our kids. So, but we'll share with you guys what we did, because she's done some really cool stuff with the kitchen, from, drawers and all kinds. I can't wait for you guys to see it. So we're excited to do that. If you have questions, like I said, reach out. And as always, and until next time, go out and live that Tampa life.
Bye, y'all.